Imagine walking into a courtroom, confident and ready to fight for justice, only to realize the lawyer across the aisle is targeting you, not for what you've done, but for who you are. That's exactly what happened to Marcus, a young black entrepreneur falsely accused of a crime he didn't commit. The prosecutor, an ambitious lawyer named Allen, saw Marcus as an easy target, assuming his background would make him powerless to fight back. But Allen had no idea how wrong he was. Fast forward a year, and the tables are about to turn in the most unexpected way. Allen, desperate for a career boost, lands a job at a prestigious law firm, only to discover that the man he once tried to frame now holds the keys to his future. What happens next is a story of justice, redemption, and a twist no one saw coming. Allen had spent years building his career, confident in his ability to outsmart anyone who stood in his way. When he took on Marcus's case, he never cared about the truth, only the win. To him, Marcus was just another case file, another stepping stone toward his dream of becoming a partner. But Marcus wasn't just anyone. He was a man who believed in justice and refused to let a broken system define his story. Despite the odds stacked against him, Marcus found a way to fight back, proving his innocence with evidence so solid that even Allen couldn't ignore it. What Allen didn't know was that Marcus's resilience wasn't just personal, it was professional. Marcus had spent years working behind the scenes, earning a reputation as a sharp business mind and an advocate for fairness. When the opportunity came to invest in a major law firm, Marcus didn't hesitate, setting the stage for an encounter neither man would forget. Allen walked into the law firm's gleaming office, excited for a fresh start. He had heard this firm handled some of the most high-profile cases in the city. But as he met with the senior partners, his confidence began to waver. One name stood out, Marcus. The same Marcus he had once tried to frame. His heart sank as he pieced it together. This wasn't just coincidence. Marcus wasn't just an investor here. He was the firm's newest board member and one of the most influential voices in its future. For Marcus, this wasn't about revenge. It was about accountability. He didn't want to ruin Allen's career. He wanted him to face the consequences of his choices. But he knew this wasn't going to be easy. Some of the other partners respected Allen's track record and didn't know the full story. Marcus needed to decide whether to confront Allen directly or let the truth reveal itself. Either way, the tension between them was impossible to ignore. Allen, now feeling cornered, wondered if his ambition had finally caught up with him. The atmosphere in the boardroom was thick with tension as Marcus entered, his calm demeanor masking the storm within. Allen sat at the long table, his usual confidence replaced by unease. He knew Marcus had every reason to expose him, and the thought of it was eating away at him. As introductions were made, Allen avoided Marcus's gaze, but he could feel the weight of it, steady, deliberate, and unflinching. The firm was set to discuss a critical case, one that could either make or break its reputation. Marcus had been instrumental in securing the client, and his expertise was undeniable. But as the meeting unfolded, he began steering the conversation in a direction that put Allen in the spotlight. Questions about ethics, accountability, and past cases came up, and Allen's answers felt rehearsed, shallow. The other partners noticed the shift, sensing an unspoken conflict brewing. Allen could feel the walls closing in. He wanted to believe he could outmaneuver Marcus, but the power dynamics had shifted. This wasn't a courtroom where he could manipulate evidence or play to biases. This was real, and Marcus held all the cards. As the meeting ended, Marcus leaned in, his voice low but firm. "We need to talk." Allen's stomach dropped. The moment he had been dreading was finally here. Allen followed Marcus into a private office, his nerves frayed. He tried to compose himself, but his mind raced with worst-case scenarios. As the door closed behind them, Marcus turned, his expression unreadable. "You know why we're here," he said, his voice steady. Alan opened his mouth to respond, but Marcus cut him off. "This isn't about revenge. It's about integrity, something you've disregarded for too long." Alan braced himself for an ultimatum, but what came next blindsided him. Marcus slid a folder across the desk. Inside were documents, transcripts, and emails tied to a scandal Alan thought he had buried years ago. "You've hurt more than just me," Marcus continued. "There are others, clients, colleagues, who deserve better. I've been gathering this for months, and now you have a choice. Own up to it, or I will." The stakes couldn't have been higher. Alan's career, reputation, and freedom now hung by a thread. But before he could process, Marcus dropped another bombshell. "By the way," Marcus said, leaning closer, "the client we're meeting tomorrow. They know everything, and they've asked for you personally." Alan's blood ran cold. He realized this wasn't just about his past. His future was now on the line, and Marcus was steering the ship. The next day, Alan entered the conference room, his palms sweaty and heart pounding. The client, a high-profile organization, sat at the head of the table, their expressions unreadable. Marcus was already there, calm and composed, exuding the quiet authority that now terrified Alan. As the meeting began, Alan tried to focus, but the weight of Marcus's warning and the mysterious client's knowledge loomed over him like a dark cloud. Halfway through, the client paused and turned to Alan. "Before we proceed, we need to address something from your past." Alan's breath caught as they slid a file across the table. It contained evidence Marcus had compiled. Every questionable decision, every unethical move, laid bare. Alan's voice cracked as he tried to explain, but the client held up a hand. "Marcus has already shared everything. The only reason you're here is because we wanted to see if you take responsibility." Alan was cornered, his excuses running dry. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "I made mistakes. I didn't realize how much damage I caused until now. I'll do whatever it takes to make it right." The room fell silent. Marcus studied him for a moment, then stood. "That's a start," he said, his tone measured. "But actions speak louder than words. You'll stay on this case, under my supervision. You'll fix what you've broken, no shortcuts, no lies." As the meeting ended, Alan felt a mix of relief and dread. But just as he thought the worst was over, Marcus leaned in and whispered, "By the way, the board voted this morning. I'm now the managing partner." Alan's eyes widened as Marcus walked away, leaving him to grapple with a new reality, one where his former target now held the ultimate power over his career. In the weeks that followed, Alan found himself working harder than ever, not to climb the ladder, but to rebuild what he had torn down. Under Marcus's watchful eye, he tackled cases with an honesty he hadn't shown in years. It was humbling, exhausting, and often uncomfortable, but it forced him to confront the man he had become. For the first time, Alan began to see law not as a game to win, but as a tool for justice. Marcus, meanwhile, proved to be a fair but firm leader. He didn't seek to humiliate Alan. Instead, he gave him opportunities to grow and make amends. Over time, Alan began earning back the trust of his colleagues and even his clients. By the end, both men had changed. Marcus showed that integrity and resilience could overcome even the deepest wrongs, while Alan learned the hard way that true success starts with accountability.